Have you ever had a thought so dangerous, so electric that just thinking it made your heart race? Maybe it was a truth about your life, something you're too afraid to admit. Maybe it was an opinion that would get you canceled, laughed at, or worse. And so you did what everyone does. You buried it. You let it rot in the basement of your mind, hoping it would dissolve. But here's the truth. That idea, the one that terrifies you, that's the one that could change everything. We live in a world of polished opinions, safe takes, toothless thoughts. We've been trained to edit ourselves before we even speak, but the most dangerous ideas, the ones that actually shift cultures, spark revolutions, or redefine who you are, they don't come from the echo chamber. They're born in the silence, the stuff we're afraid to say out loud. So why are we so scared? Let's start with the biggest lie you've been sold, that your thoughts are just thoughts, that they're harmless. But no, ideas are alive. They're the invisible architects of your reality. The moment you give them a voice, they gain power. And that's what scares people, because once an idea is spoken, it can't be unspoken, it can't be stuffed back into the dark. It exists now, and existence is contagious. Think about every major shift in history. The ideas that actually moved the needle weren't the polite ones. They were the ones that made people rage, that got books burned, that got people exiled or killed. Galileo saying the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, Nietzsche declaring God was dead, Orwell warning us about surveillance before it had a name. These weren't popular thoughts, they were necessary ones. Now, I'm not saying you need to be a martyr, but I am saying this. The ideas you're most afraid to voice, they're usually the ones closest to your truth, the ones that could set you free. So why don't we say them? 3 reasons: shame, fear, and the worst one, indifference. Let's break them down. First, shame. That voice that says, "Who am I to think this?" Shame isn't just about guilt, it's about belonging. We're wired to stay with the tribe, and the tribe hates disruptors, so we silence ourselves before anyone else can. Second, fear. Not just of rejection, but of being right. Because if you're right, you might have to act, and action is risky. But the third one? Indifference. The belief that your voice doesn't matter. That's the killer. Because the world needs your dangerous ideas, even especially if they're unpopular. So here's your challenge. What's the one thought you've been too scared to say out loud? Not to the internet, not to a crowd, just to yourself. Say it, right now, whisper it, because that's where it starts. Not with a manifesto, with a spark. The most dangerous ideas are the ones we're afraid to voice, so go voice them. And if you're ready to go deeper, to unpack how to voice these ideas without self-destructing, and why the world needs them now more than ever, then let's keep going. So you've got that dangerous idea burning a hole in your chest, the one that won't let you sleep, the one that feels like a secret too heavy to carry. Now what? Do you just scream it into the void, post it online at 2 a.m. and brace for impact? No. Because here's the truth, most dangerous ideas don't die because they're wrong, they die because they're mishandled. They're thrown like grenades instead of planted like seeds. And today we're fixing that. Let's start with the first rule of dangerous ideas. Timing is everything. Think about it. If Galileo had shouted about heliocentrism in the town square on a random Tuesday, he'd have been laughed out of history. Instead, he calculated. He planted his idea in the right minds at the right moment. Now, I'm not telling you to wait for permission. I'm telling you to wait for leverage. For the crack in the dam where your voice can slip through and multiply. This isn't about watering down your truth. It's about weaponizing it. Because an idea shouted into a hurricane is just noise. But that same idea, whispered in the right ear at the right time, that's how movements start. So ask yourself, who needs to hear this most? Not who's easiest to tell, who's ready to hear it. Find them first. Now the second rule, Frame it like a gift, not a grenade. The human brain rejects what threatens its identity. So if your idea starts with, "You're all wrong, congratulations," you've triggered the immune system. But if it starts with, "What if we've missed something?" Suddenly, curiosity overrides defense. Take Nietzsche. He didn't say, "Morality is a lie." He said, "Beyond good and evil." That's the difference between starting a war and starting a conversation. This is where most rebels fail. They think edge equals impact. But real influence isn't about shock, it's about seduction. You're not just delivering truth, you're unlocking it in someone else's mind. That means speaking their language first. Jesus used parables, Orwell used fiction. You need to find the Trojan horse for your idea. Which brings us to the third rule: let them steal it. The fastest way to kill a dangerous idea is to chain it to your ego. The moment it becomes yours instead of theirs, resistance spikes. But if someone feels like they discovered it, now it's their truth. That's why the best teachers ask questions instead of giving answers. That's why Socrates is still quoted 2,400 years later, "Ownership is the enemy of adoption." Now the hard part, not everyone deserves your truth. Some minds are steel traps, some ears are just walls, and that's okay. Your job isn't to convince the unconvincible, it's to find the few who are this close to seeing what you see. The rest? Let them catch up later. History's biggest ideas didn't spread because they convinced everyone at once. They spread because they convinced the right people first. So where do you start? Small. Test your idea in the wild with low stakes. A private conversation, a pseudonymous post. Watch how it lands. Does it spark? Does it resonate? Or does it fizzle? Adjust, refine. Most dangerous ideas aren't born fully formed. They're forged in friction. And finally, protect your energy. Voicing dangerous ideas is a marathon, not a sprint. For every person who gets it, 10 won't, 100. That's not failure, that's filtering. The goal isn't universal acceptance, it's irreversible impact. So build your inner circle first. Find the people who'll hand you water when the mob's throwing stones, because you'll need them. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Gandhi. Next time we go deeper. We'll talk about why the world needs your dangerous ideas now more than ever, and how to know when you're really onto something. But for now, start small. Plant one seed, whisper one truth, and watch what grows. Every society has its sacred cows, ideas so deeply ingrained that questioning them feels like blasphemy. In the 1600s it was, "The earth is flat." In the 1950s it was, "Women belong in the kitchen." Today? Well, that's the question, isn't it? What are our sacred cows? The beliefs we're not allowed to poke at? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Progress never comes from the center. It comes from the edges, from the people brave enough, or crazy enough, to say, "What if we're wrong?" Right now, there's an idea you've had. One you've been biting your tongue over. Maybe it's about politics, maybe it's about God, maybe it's about the lie everyone in your industry is pretending not to see. And every day you stay silent, you're making a choice. Let someone else fight this battle. But what if no one does? What if your voice was the tipping point? Let me show you how this works. Every era has its sleepwalkers. People who go along with the status quo because it's easier. And every era has its awakeners, the ones who pull the fire alarm. The awakeners always pay a price. Galileo spent his life under house arrest, Socrates drank hemlock. But here's what they understood. The cost of silence is higher. Because when good people stay quiet, bad ideas win by default. Take Fritz Haber. In the early 1900s he solved world hunger by inventing synthetic fertilizer, then unsolved it by inventing chemical weapons. Same mind, same brilliance, different choices. That's the power of a single idea. It's never just an idea, it's a door. And once it's open, you can't control what walks through. But here's the catch, not opening the door, That's a choice too, and history hates cowards. Now, you might be thinking, I'm no Galileo, I'm no Haber, my ideas aren't that big. Wrong. The ideas that change everything rarely look revolutionary at first. The printing press, just a wine press with letters, on the origin of species, just one more book in a shop. Revolutions start small, with a whisper, a scribble in a notebook, a what if over coffee. The difference between a footnote and a firestorm, someone daring to say it out loud. So, let's talk about your idea, the one that scares you. Why does it matter? Here's the test. Does it challenge a sacred cow? Does it solve a problem everyone's ignoring? Does it hurt to say? If yes, good. That's how you know it's valuable, because the world doesn't need more echo chambers, it needs more earthquakes. But here's where most people get stuck. They confuse dangerous ideas with dumb ones. Provocation for its own sake is noise. But necessary heresy? That's the heartbeat of progress. The difference? Necessary heresy comes from love. Love of truth, love of people, love of a future worth fighting for. So ask yourself, is my idea born from anger or allegiance to something bigger than me? This is the moment of truth, because the world will push back, hard. It'll call you crazy, naive, dangerous, and maybe you are. But consider this. Every idea we take for granted today, free speech, human rights, even the shape of the planet, was once somebody's dangerous thought, somebody's how dare you. So the real question isn't is this idea safe? It's is this silence safer? The price of apathy is to be ruled by evil men. Plato. Next time we'll arm you for the fight. How to survive the backlash. How to find your tribe. How to make sure your voice outlasts the noise. But for now, just sit with this. The world needs your dangerous idea, not in 10 years, not when you're ready. Now. They told Galileo to kneel. They told Van Gogh his art was worthless. They told Turing his love was illegal. And yet, here we are, still quoting Galileo, still weeping before starry night, still using computers built on Turing's genius. Why? Because ideas outlive their enemies, but only if you know how to plant them. Today, we finish what we started. Armor against the backlash. First, let's be honest. If your idea doesn't make someone uncomfortable, it's not dangerous enough. So the backlash isn't a sign you're wrong, it's a sign you're relevant. But here's how to survive it. Separate the signal from the noise. Not all pushback is equal. Is it coming from someone who understands your argument, or just someone who feels threatened by its existence? Learn the difference. Build your inner citadel. The Stoics had it right. Your core self must be unshakable. Write down why this idea matters to you. When the storm hits, reread it. Let them misunderstand you. Nietzsche said, you must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. Not everyone will get it. That's okay. Find your tribe the right way. Lone wolves die young, but pack wolves change the world. Here's the catch. Your tribe isn't who applauds you, it's who sharpens you. Look for people who challenge you kindly, not tear you down. Fellow travelers, not yes men. Those further down the path, they'll warn you of cliffs ahead. And avoid rebel tourists, people who love the aesthetic of rebellion, but bail when real stakes appear. Make it outlast you. Martin Luther didn't just yell at the church, he nailed his ideas to the door. Marie Curie didn't just discover radium, she published through scorn and sexism. Your idea needs scaffolding to survive. The 3 pillars of immortal ideas. Artifacts. Write it down, code it, paint it, allies, teach it to someone who will teach others. Action. Build something that requires your idea to exist. The litmus test. Final question. Is this worth the cost? Because some battles will cost you friends, opportunities, sleep. So ask, if I'm right, who does this help? If I'm wrong, can I live with that? On my deathbed, will I regret saying this or not saying it? The match is in your hands now. Some ideas should burn. The ones that keep us small, scared, separate, but others, they're fire starters. The kind that light bonfires visible for centuries. So I'll ask one last time. What's the idea you've been too afraid to voice? Say it, write it, whisper it to the night, then plant it, because the world doesn't need more echo chambers. It needs more arsonists of the old way.